I'm so pleased to meet you today. My name is Esther Adwert. I'm a digital forensics analyst, cybersecurity analyst, and I'm very passionate about data protection, cybersecurity, and making cybersecurity accessible. To today's class, we're going to be talking about digital forensics, and we're going to be introducing ourselves to the concept of digital forensics. What is digital forensics? If we want to go the dictionary way, we're going to define digital forensics as the process of collecting and analyzing digital evidence. But when we do, we don't just analyze this evidence. We want to make sure that this evidence is, the integrity is maintained, okay? And then also it is admissible in a court of law. So when you present evidence today in a court of law, then it means this evidence has not been tampered with, okay? Someone has not come and added some fake information. Someone has not come and added some fake information and then made you present that evidence in court. Okay. But to what end? Why do we need digital forensics? Anytime as a digital forensics analyst that I see some of you become, or at least most of you become, before you pick your path, before you pick your specialization path, the goal the goal of digital forensics is number one, to recover, number two, to analyze, and to present digital evidence. Okay, so when you get to a crime scene, the first thing you're going to do is recover evidence. Okay, so you want to see, are there any laptops in this crime scene? And if there are any laptops, what kind of data can we find in this laptop that ties the suspect to the crime scene? So that's analyzed. And then we present it in a court of law. Then we say, okay, so the suspect is guilty because of this, because of X, because of Y. And, we found a flash disk that was in the crime scene, and this flash disk belongs to them. And this is how we know it belongs to them. Yeah, okay. In a way that supports investigations and legal proceedings. Now, we've known what digital forensics is, but digital forensics can be applied in so many ways, in so many sectors, okay? And we're going to see some of them in a bit. So the first application of digital forensics is in criminal investigations, which we use to define digital forensics. But I want us to open our minds that this is not just the only application for it. When you'll be looking for jobs, you're not going to only look at law enforcement agencies or cybercrime units. Okay, so the first application of digital forensics is criminal investigations. And the goal here is to solve crimes involving digital devices. A crime has been committed using a phone. That is going to fall under digital forensics. Someone has used their laptop to hack into our systems without permission. Okay, so we're going to apply digital forensics to investigate that. So here in criminal investigations, the goal is to recover deleted. We can use it to recover deleted emails, files in fraud or in a harassment case. So when someone says you've been harassing them, we're going to look at their chat history. We're going to look at yours and their chat histories. Okay. We are tracing IP addresses in cyber stalking or hacking cases. You've hacked into our systems without permission. What happens? We're going to look at the IP. We're going to look at the logs first. Logs are like a record. Okay. So when you get into a house, in simple terms, it writes um, I want to hope there's an Esther in this class. So let's say there's Esther came in at 9:01. Then the next time Patrick comes in, it's Patrick came in at 10:05 and left at 9:00 p.m. Okay, so that is essentially what logs are. So in a hacking case, we're going to check the logs. We're going to check the IP addresses from the logs, who logged in, who accessed the system at what time. Is it around the time that we suspect we got hacked? So that's how digital forensics can be used in a criminal investigation. The second way that we can apply digital forensics is in corporate investigations. And in corporate investigations, we are essentially investigating internal incidents within organizations. Okay, we are we, some of the groups that are going to use these IT security teams, HR, private investigators, yeah. And as you can see, there's an example noted. There's for an example. So say you are in a university, or during my time, I was at Egerton University, and during my time, there were people who used the system illegally to change their marks, to change their grades. Okay, And when this would happen, one time the institution.
Hello, and welcome to the next lesson, the second lesson of this series. We're going to look at the third and fourth applications of digital forensics, and our third application is in incident response and cybersecurity. So, when we use digital forensics in incident response and cybersecurity, we're technically trying to understand and respond to cyber attacks. Incident response is something, an attack, an event has occurred, and now your security team needs to respond to it, mitigate. They need to do something about it. So the first step is usually to isolate the servers, isolate what has been attacked. Yeah, and then act from there. Analyze the logs, look at the logs and malware and determine the breach methods. What methods did these attackers use to get into your system? And was it an insider threat? Was it through a phishing email? And then also when digital forensics is used in incident response and cybersecurity, it can help us identify data exfiltration paths. Did someone send something? Yeah, the other thing is tracing ransomware attacks back to the source. So a ransomware has been dropped to your organization. Yeah, all of your data has been held in ransom. What do you do? How do we know the team that was? How do we know the attack group or the team that was the culprit rather? Yeah. The next application of digital forensics is in data recovery. So let's assume you have your hard disk, an external hard disk, and then this hard drive is damaged. What happens? How do you recover information? How do you recover data that you had in this hard drive? It's by help of digital forensics. And mostly the group that use this application of digital forensics is individuals, businesses, also tech support teams, because I know there are few organizations that have data recovery as a service. They offer data recovery services. So they access data from, if you formatted your USB drive or your SD card, know that that data is still retrievable with the right tools. And that is only possible through digital forensics. One of the big companies that I know here in Kenya that handles data recovery for individuals, businesses is East Africa Data Handlers. You can look them up, see what they're doing, and how it relates to what you're trying to learn here. The other application of digital forensics is in insurance and financial fraud investigations. Big telcos like Safaricom, let's say they lose money today. Let's say 5 billion is stolen from them today. What happens when you make that claim? When you make that report, if it's on the customer side and you make that report, then an investigation is going to be launched, and this investigation is only going to be possible through digital forensics. So this application is used to detect fraudulent claims and also financial manipulation. Most groups that use this, insurance companies, financial institutions, auditors, and also telcos now, because they deal with money. There's M-Pesa right now, you can send money from wherever you are. Now, insurance companies use this when you make a claim. Let's say you've insured your small company against cyber threats, and then it happens. The insurance company is going to send their team to come and validate or verify that this was actually a cyber attack, and then they'll make a decision based on the findings on whether or not to compensate you. You've been involved in a car accident, they need to compensate you. Of course, they're going to do their own investigations to verify that you are not drinking, you're not driving while drunk. Yeah, that the actual reason, the reason why you're saying, the reason you got the accident is the actual reason that you've put in the report. It's also used to detect fake documents or doctored evidence when now in a court of law, someone has, right now we have huge stories of deepfakes, right? So if right now I get taken to court over a fake video or over a deepfake video, something that seems so real, then the court is going to launch an investigation on that video to detect whether it's fake or it's, if it's real, and if the judgment can proceed. Yeah, if the rulings can proceed. The last case of digital forensics in this lesson is national security and intelligence, and the main aim for using it in this way is to prevent terrorism and protect national interest. Mostly the groups that use this is intelligence agencies, military cyber units, e.g. NIS. um, if you're in Kenya, or at least even in Africa, I know you heard about the Reject Finance Bill 2024 that happened in Kenya last year, June. Yeah, so if, let's say, if a claim has been made and they need to the country, if a claim has been made that, say, a group of youths in Nairobi are trying to communicate with a group of youth in Mombasa, and they're planning something, they're planning maybe an attack, let's say they're planning to get into the parliament, which happened. Yeah, so it's only through digital forensics that we'd be able to actually conduct those investigations and verify. After the finance bill abductions, you saw the BBC World Report, right? that was that is the perfect that's actually a perfect example of digital forensics at work. So they were able to look at those videos from different angles and see that this is the officer that shot this youth in front of parliament, this is the officer that did this and that. Yeah, it can also be used to analyze digital devices seized in raids. Let's say there's a raid. We know terrorism is an issue. It's still an issue. So now let's say Al Shabaab have planned to attack Kenya, and there's information has leaked on the same. So what happens if they raid a certain if they raid where they are, a certain location, they're going to seize those digital devices. Then they're going to um investigate them for any evidence, or investigate them for proof that really these people are terrorists and they had been planning this, maybe through their chats, through their communications, their phone calls. Yeah, yeah. Now we are going to move to the next lesson. Is going to be about forensic tools. See you in the next. Hello and welcome to the third lesson of this series. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're learning something. So, as I mentioned in the previous lesson, this lesson is going to be about forensic tools, which is more about the actual forensics, because I don't know if I've mentioned this in the previous lessons, but forensics is about retelling a story from after it happened. Yeah. When an incident occurs, when an action, when a theft, when there's been fraud, say someone steals money from a bank, someone is shot at his house, at his or her house. um, what forensics does is to recreate this story from after it has happened. So we are stepping back. We are trying to retract the steps of the, if it's an attacker, if it's a malicious, if it's a person with malicious intent, if it's a thief, if it's a killer. Yeah, for whoever this person is, we're trying to recreate their steps now from after the action has occurred. So in the early 1980s, there were not so many digital forensic tools, and that is understandable because, I mean, at that time there were some technological advancements, but yeah, not so much. So most forensic teams relied on live analysis, and this is a tricky practice. You know why? Because anytime, and I want you to note this. If you leave with nothing from this lesson, please leave with this: that anytime you're doing a forensics investigation, computer forensics, especially computer forensics, as that is what we are learning now. Anytime you're doing a computer forensics analysis, never ever do it on the actual, on the original. If it's a device, never do it on the original device. If you have a data set, if you have a whole database, never do it on that. Instead, what do? Instead, you clone, have a copy of the original, then conduct your forensics from there. Because again, you see these tools, they, sorry, when some of these tools, sometimes when you're doing a forensics analysis, what could happen is you might make a mistake. What if you make a mistake and you corrupt the whole thing? So now any evidence you do,
evidence analysis you do from that point on, it's it's corrupted. So it's not admissible in court of law. Because again, remember, if we are retelling a story, mostly you will be retelling a story in a court of law. So you need to convince these people that this evidence, this piece of evidence, is admissible. And the way to make it as admissible is to keep it clean. Yeah. Anytime you're going to put some information, some very important pieces of evidence in a flash, in a drive, make sure it is cleaned, it is wiped, it's not corrupted. Okay. And when you're going to conduct an analysis, do it on the copy of the original, so that anytime you make a mistake, you can always come back to the original, then make a copy of it again, as many copies as you want. Now, um so there's, as we've mentioned, in the 80s, early 80s, there were not so many tools in computer forensics. But there's been, with time, with every technological advancement, with every new computer, with every new device, there's a new crime. Okay. So every second, with these high crime rates, with the growth of crime rates online, this created a demand for better and more advanced tools. Because if you're going to investigate a cyberbullying incident, you're not going to go and with just your eyes, right? You need tools to look at history, browser history. You need tools to look at, what did these guys do, what message did they send to whom, yeah, such like. So one case that is very important, that has been very instrumental in shaping world of digital forensics, is the San Bernardino Apple FBI case. And in that case, what happened between 2015 and 2016, there was a mass shootout. Okay, forgive my tongue. There was a mass shootout in the US. And in this shootout, when people were killed, right? People died. And then the police went now to collect evidence, to do investigation. After the shooting, police have shot. It was so bad that even the thieves were, even the shooters, the offenders were shot. There were two shooters. So two phones were retrieved from the crime scene, and one phone was an iPhone. I don't know if you're watching this, if you're in this class and you have an iPhone. I don't know why you have an iPhone. I don't know your reasons for choosing an iPhone over like iOS over Android. I hope it's for security reasons, because yeah, Apple, they invest a lot more in their security. So this San Bernardino case, when this happened, they collected an Apple phone from an iPhone from the crime scene. And what happened is, when they took this phone for investigation, they could not investigate it. They could not break into it. There's something called jailbreaking. They could not break into the phone. Okay. And now, what could they do? They had to go to the police, FBI called Apple and then said, okay, guys, so we have this investigation, and we need help breaking into this machine. Now, there were so many reasons why they could not break into an Apple machine, an Apple device. As I've mentioned, please check this feature. Please go read about this. Apple has something very secure. It's called Secure Enclave, where they've invested in really really good security features for their devices. And one of these things is that encryption is done as you read and write. Encryption is done as you type a message. If you're typing a message, it's done on the spot. And then also the keys are stored on the device, on the hardware, not on the software. Please read about it, just so you get it clearly. So that means even the OS cannot read the keys to unlocking your Apple device. Even the OS cannot read. They are on the hardware. And when something is in the hardware, it's a bit, at that time, there were not enough tools, and then there was also not enough knowledge on it. Okay. So when they reached out to, if FBI reached out to Apple, then they said, so we need you guys to create, knowing this thing, knowing how it's hard to investigate these phones, we need you to create a backdoor on all iOS devices. Which was funny, because now this went to court and it was a whole issue. Apple was thinking, we can't compromise the privacy of our people, and government on the other hand, FBI rather, on the other hand, was thinking,
okay, we need to be investigating crimes. It was such a big issue. Went to court. It was so. The thing is, there's always. I know you guys have heard of maybe WhatsApp and Telegram, where they are required by law. If there's been a law, they're required by law to submit maybe your calls, maybe your some sort of data on you when there's an investigation that is going on about you. Yeah. So please read about this. I think I will include the link to some of these cases in the maybe in the comment, or I'll share with the main instructor, so that we learn about these things. We learn about these cases and how they shape forensics, computer forensics now, or even digital forensics in general. Because again, I want you to know and understand that digital when you talk digital forensics, it's different things. We have computer forensics, we have mobile forensics, we have IoT, Internet of Things forensics, right? So when we talk digital forensics, it's not just about our computers. Yeah. See you in the next, where we'll be talking about the steps in forensics, in digital forensics. Hi, and welcome to this lesson. We've had a brief introduction on digital forensics tools, and it is important to note that there are different tools for different things. So, as we progress to this in this lesson, we're going to learn the different steps of uh, conducting a forensics investigation. However, we need to understand that there are different tools for different tasks in forensics. So, number one, with these tools for evidence collection and analysis. So, these ones, they create exact forensic copies of drives without altering the original data. Remember, as I mentioned, in your career as a forensics analyst, the first thing you should never do is perform investigations on your original machine, on the original data. If you have some data, if you have a drive, always make a copy of it, so that you don't make mistakes on the original, and if you do make mistakes, because again, we are human, and some of these tools are not perfect. So if you do make mistakes, or if you're hitting a snag, you just come back to the original and make more copies. Say the second function of certain forensic tools is data analysis. So when you talk data analysis tools, we're talking about tools to search, to filter and interpret large volumes of data for digital, like large volumes of data efficiently. So for example, if right now I confiscate your machine and I want to conduct an investigation, there's a tool that's going to help me extract your browser history. And then from this browser, once I've extracted, now remember, evidence collection and analysis. Okay. Now that's why we'll be using such tools. Now, once I've extracted this data, I make a copy of it, right? Now, after I've made a copy, what do I do with the copy? Now, I want to find evidence that on 29th of June in 2023, your last browser history of that day was guns, where to find guns, or where to find cheap guns, or even how to dispose a gun. Now, the third set of tools is data recovery tools. And now, let's say I've confiscated your machine. I've analyzed and I've seen that remember, number one, evidence collection, right? We've collected, confiscated the machine. Number two, data analysis. We've made copies. Now we are searching and filtering. We are seeing through. We are trying to find the evidence. Then we find out that some things might have been deleted, or we find out that your drive is empty, meaning you might have deleted. And even if you've not deleted, it is our work and your work now as a digital forensics analyst to make sure to test. So to do that, we're going to use data recovery tools. So these data recovery tools, they're used to recover deleted or corrupted files using signature-based techniques, which you will learn as we advance. Do not worry. Now, the other set of tools is multipurpose tools. Certain tools, they do so many things at once. And a good tool is autopsy. So it can be used to analyze data, and it can also be used to recover. If a file has been deleted, if a drive has been wiped, you can also use it to get to reverse. You get to reverse information that has been deleted from the drive. So the thing is, when you delete, let's take a good example, is when you delete photos on your phone or even on your computer. Where do you think they go to? They're not entirely deleted. What it does essentially is to show that it tells your phone, you can write over this memory. So there's this space. I've created space. There was this picture that was written here. So remember, even a picture, your machine does not interpret a picture as a picture, right? It's, remember, when we talk about bits and bytes, yeah. So it's it your computer interprets this as numbers, okay? So now when your computer, when this in your in that memory, when there's an image and you delete it, what it does is telling your phone or telling your machine, this memory, this part of the memory, please, you can write on it. Okay, you can write on it. You can write something on it. So the more you rewrite and write things, that's the more the data becomes difficult to retrieve. Which is such as we advance, you're going to learn about anti-forensic techniques, which means this means that some of the techniques that attackers or malicious people use to evade forensics. So one example is, you write so many times, you write and write so many times. Of course, there are tools to do that. Then once you do that, it's hard for me to retrieve. Even when I retrieve, by the time it's so hard for me to get to the initial, it's so hard to get for me to get to the actual incriminating evidence. So now that we've talked about the different set of tools or forensic tools, we're just going to go quickly over common tools in forensics investigation, some of the common tools that you're going to encounter. Number one is Wireshark. So again, remember we said when you talk digital forensics, we're not just talking about computer forensics. There can be computer forensics, there can be network forensics. Now that is conducting a forensics investigation in a network. There can also be mobile forensics, and IoT forensics, just like I've mentioned in the previous lesson. So one tool is Wireshark, and Wireshark is a network protocol analyzer tool, and investigators can use it to inspect data packets for any anomalies. When you're learning networking, I know you've learned that data is transferred in packets. Yeah. Now these packets, when I send you a message today, when even this video, as you're reading now, as you're listening to my voice and even seeing my screen, all of this information is not transferred as a video. It's not transmitted to you as a video. Yeah. It's different packets. It's small packets put together to bring out the actual message that I want to relay. Now these packets, of course, there's need to analyze them, because someone can hide something. Someone can always hide a malicious thing. Um, Someone can always hide something malicious message, or even a thing, or even a virus, or a malware, or any piece of malware in a packet. So Wireshark is used, number one, for deep packet inspection. So this one is you analyzing multiple network protocols. Now, the thing about Wireshark, it's very good because it has different features. When you're doing your deep packet inspection, some of these things are color coded. Okay, I'm just going to show you. I hope you can still see it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what. Okay, so this is Wireshark, and we are going to look at some packets. But do not worry, if you don't get it in this lesson, we'll attach links to videos, to really comprehensive videos on most of these tools, or all of these tools, and some of the tools that you're going to be using. So let's assume we want to investigate, we want to inspect Wi-Fi, some Wi-Fi packets. Remember, as I said, when your information over the network is broken down into packets. So as at now, you can see the source. Now this is on my home Wi-Fi. Okay. Remember we said it's color coded. So you see the some the DNS, you see the in color, this blue, this is light blue. Then here, this one here, it's in, what is this? I think this is pink or purple. Yeah. It's color coded, and you can always set these colors to something you want. We also have this. So as you can see, there's the source. This is the source where that packet is originating from. This is where the destination of the packet, it's going to this IP address. And then we then have now the protocol, TCP, UDP. Remember when in networking, we talked about TCP, UDP. Okay. Then now we have the length, then we have the information. Now this is just giving us some information. The information is application data, like more information about about the packet that we are inspecting. Yeah, yeah, as you can see. So let's say we want to investigate maybe this. Let's capture this. So let's say this is what was captured. Capture field capture. We stop. So let's say this is what was captured in an investigation. So this is what we were able to get. So I want to follow this packet. TCP stream there. So we investigate. If we are going to investigate this packet, as you can see, let me just show you the whole screen like that. Yes. You see the contents, you cannot, they in gibberish because they're encrypted. You cannot read them. Yeah. So let's assume this it was not encrypted. Let's say you're using some free Wi-Fi around, and there's a malicious person who's trying to sniff into the packets. This is what they'll do. They'll pick the packet they want to. They'll pick. So this is what they've captured. So they'll check your packets, information that they're getting from your network. So let's say we want to investigate another. So what you're going to do is you're going to click follow. Then we follow. When we follow that packet, this is what we get. This is what we get. Just gibberish. We cannot read it. But if it were some free Wi-Fi and secured and encrypted Wi-Fi, you could read that information. Yeah, you can read whatever information that person is trying to relay. Nice. So that was just a brief introduction into Wireshark. Of course, you're going to, as you use them, as you familiarize, you're going to learn how the different ways of using Wireshark, what you can investigate and what you cannot investigate. Now, the other advantage of now Wireshark is documentation. It's very beginner friendly. There are guides all over. There's YouTube. Also, there's me, your instructor. There's so many. There's a lot of people you can always ask. Then also you can customize it. You can tailor the settings, especially the color codes. If you love beauty, yeah, you can just make it work for you. You can put it in a way that works for you, in a way that you understand better. Now, for these other tools, I don't have them in this machine. I have them in my other machine. Um, and I will attach, think I will attach links to what we can do. To how to practice them, what you can do with them. Okay, so do not worry. This lesson, the rest of this lesson will just be maybe explaining what they do and a brief intro on the tools. So the next tool is FTK Imager, and it's a popular tool for it creates copies of hard drives. Remember when we said there are different sets of forensic tools, and one of them is for um, creating when you the one for creating copies. Yeah, so you create copies of forensics evidence. Let me just show you. Let's just go. So here, evidence collection and analysis. So here, FTK Imager falls under the first set of tools, evidence collection and analysis. But also we will see that it does so much more. So we by the end of the lesson, we might also learn that it's actually in set 4 here in the fourth set of tools, which is multipurpose tools. Yeah. Yeah, so we've seen Wireshark, we've seen we can use it to start to interpret, to inspect packets. So that means data analysis. We can also use it to create yeah, it's mostly here, data analysis. That's for Wireshark. So FTK Imager, it allows an investigator to preview and analyze files. So already we have it's already in two sets, yeah, including deleted ones. So it's even a data recovery tool as well. So that means it's a multi-purpose tool, which is in our four sets, in the way we divided into four sets, it's in the fourth category. We also have autopsy or sleuth kit. So autopsy and the sleuth kit, they're popular forensic tools used for analyzing hard drives and smartphones. Some tools, by the way, some tools can only be used in mobile forensics or computer forensics, while others, they can be used in both. Yeah. There are other tools like steg detect um, and steg hide, where what is stake detect is more of a command line, a tool. So some tools, they come as an app, like with a graphical user interface. If you're not familiar with that, they come with like an app you can download, then you can see it's very user friendly, and you can follow, you can just click some certain buttons. But other tools like stake detect, they're command line tools. the command line tools, and you have to use them via the command line. They don't have like a fancy, you run a few, they don't like, they don't have like a fancy app. So you just run a command. Yeah. So now that we've learned about certain tools, just a few tools, maybe like three, four, those are five tools. Veracrypt. Veracrypt is an encryption tool, and it can be used to encrypt and decrypt files. So let's say you have very important, very sensitive files in your machine. What would you do? You create a partition, then you use Veracrypt to encrypt it. You, of course, you'll create a password. Then when you want to access it, you will just use Veracrypt again to decrypt it. There's so many tools. These are not the only tools, but these are some of the common tools that you're going to hear as a forensics analyst. And also they are beginner friendly, so these are some of the tools that we're going to start with. Okay. Now, we've learned tools. We've learned some of these tools. We've learned the different sets of tools. We've learned what is forensics and the different applications. So now, how do we go about an investigation? I think this is now like the actual flesh of the lesson, and I'm going to quickly go through it. How do we go about an investigation? You are a forensics investigator, right? From right now, like as we are in this lesson, we are forensics investigators. So Tech Bros, now our crime scene. Tech Bros is a software development company with sensitive customer data. Now, a suspicious file access was detected by the security team. An employee, Alex, accessed financial data outside his usual work responsibilities and at 2 a.m. in the morning. So number one, we already have some anomalies we can notice. Now, the thing about cybersecurity, the thing about forensics again, we detect anomalies in the network. You know, the things we do every day, which are the baseline. So we know this one happens every day. So if this happens, it's not at cost. There's no need to be worried, right? But when something else happens, we know, oh no, this is an anomaly. So already in our crime scene, we have two anomalies. Alex accessed financial data outside his usual work responsibilities, thinks he's not supposed to access. Why is he accessing them? Yeah. Now again, and he accesses all of this information at 2 a.m. off hours. Let's say people work, it's an 8 to 5 work policy. So already um, we have some anomalies that we can start with. Now, you have been invited as the lead investigator. How are you going to go about it? So step number one, you're going to obtain information to get deeper context, because again, I want you to understand that information is power in everyday life, really. The more you know, the better. Okay, so even in a forensics investigation, the more you know, the more you know, the better you are. Even in hacking, when you're doing now red team, there's red team and blue team, right? And I know by the time you've gotten here, you understand that red team is the attacking side and blue team is more like the defenses. Okay, so now even in a good hack, even when you're going to do a hack, the first step is always recon. You gather as much information as possible on your target, and when you gather as much information as possible, you're able to see their weaknesses. You're able to see, okay, so this is how I'll attack, or I'll attack at dawn. We strike at dawn. Yeah. So now the first step to any hack is information gathering, and so is any investigation. So number one, as the lead investigator in this case, you're going to collect as much information as possible about the incident. Number two, you're going to understand the environment circumstances. For example, the way we were saying, if it's a 8 to 5 work policy, what is Alex doing at 2 a.m.? The other thing you're going to understand the environment circumstances is, okay, so if Alex access financial data that he should not access, does that mean other people, what are the permissions in the organization? Does that mean other people can also access information that they do not need, or they should not see? Okay, so you're going to understand the environment circumstances, and more importantly, you're going to establish adequate context to aid in the later steps and stages. Now, if we do our first step nicely, it makes work easy. It's easy. Remember, we said we are telling a story from behind. We are telling a story after it has happened. So we are like trying to narrate. We are trying to get into fit into the shoes of the attacker, or whichever event occurred, and then we are now stepping backwards, and then we're saying, okay, so this is the step we're tracking the steps. This is the step they took. This is the step they took until now we get to where they started. Okay, so now we're going to get clarity as we are understanding, as we are obtaining as much information as possible. We're also looking at timelines because you want to know the date, time, and the sequence of events. So after they downloaded this information, what happened? Did they go to, if it's a shared folder, did they go to another folder? Okay. Now, this will help us identify patterns. Has this employee done this before? No. Okay. So if this person has not done this before, then it means this is the first time. So what is happening here? And if they've done this before, maybe at a weird time. So maybe number one, maybe this is someone who steals at this time, or this is just in his habit, like he works at wee hours, wee hours of the morning or wee hours of the night. So now when we get timelines, it will help us identify the patterns in the network behavior prior to the incident. Also, it will determine initial actions. It will set and prioritize investigation goals and build a strong case. So now we have context, we have a story. So we are trying to go back. So we are going to strategize. Yeah. How do we go back? We strategize. So we know, okay, so when we go to the crime scene to collect the various evidence, what are we going to do? Which one are we going to prioritize? Because again, in your forensics career, I want you to understand that not all evidence is the same. Number one, on strategy. We all need strategy. We need strategy in life. We need strategy in every day at the workplace. We need strategy everywhere, even in investigation, in sports. So number one, failing to plan is planning to fail. So you, as the lead investigator, you're going to create a strategy on the actions you will take. So for example, remember, there's there's some evidence that is highly volatile, like RAM. You know that disappears when, as soon as you shut down your machine, it disappears. So again, you want to plan to collect that fast. Then there's potential value and effort required to go through them. Okay, so network data is very volatile. It can disappear quickly due to log rotation or network changes. So it's, remember how we captured traffic on Wireshark, on the Wireshark demo? Yes. Now you'll need to capture traffic as at your earliest or critical opportunity. This is very important. So as soon as you get there, you get the context, you are allowed, you get the right signatures and authorization, then collect the network. Then again, we want live data from Alex's machine. So on information such as any files that they didn't save, system memory which can be lost as soon as the machine is powered off, um, or even if the machine is used further. Okay, so you prioritize on now the potential value. Some evidence, of course, is more valuable because there's a lot more evidence to get. There's a lot more to get compared to others. And there's some that are really hard to get. So, say, for example, information that's already there, it's information that has not been deleted. That's easy. That one you'll get and analyze quickly. But information that has already been deleted, it might take some more time, effort, and also new tools to do that, to retrieve all of that information. So now, when we talk about potential value, we are referring to how the evidence is important to proving the case. There's some evidence that is really good, yes, but it's not very relevant in proving the case. So, for example, if you killed, I don't know, that sounds extreme. Anyway, um, potential. How is it important? So, for example, in this evidence, the value of evidence lies in identifying if data was indeed exfiltrated and how Alex was involved in the malicious activity. We've seen that Alex was able to get this information at some financial data at 2 a.m. Okay, so what is important to us now is to determine to this in like in evidence that actually supports this is very important than evidence that, say, for example, we say Alex has been truant, has not been coming to work and stuff. That is going to be supporting evidence, but it's not the main evidence. Okay, so now logs of what Alex accessed in the server, very highly valuable because it shows which files were accessed when and if they were transferred or tampered with. Did he change? Okay. So now, once we've done a strategy, we've planned, so we know our plan, we've obtained the information, we've gotten context, now we've strategized, we know this is what we're going to start with, this is what we're going to end with, this is what is most important to us, and this is what is not very important. It's still important because it's going to be supporting evidence. Now, the third thing you're going to do is to collect evidence. Now, when the investigation plan is ready, you begin to collect all the evidence. Now, while you're collecting evidence, remember to document everything. So, number one, all the network access points. all the evidence sources used. Where did you get the evidence? So I am saying, number one, we got to the crime scene. We got the evidence from the logs, network logs. We also got the evidence from security team, their machine. We also got now Alexa's machine. You have to document all of this. Now, on documentation, there's something you're going to hear a lot in forensics, which is very important, and it's called the chain of custody. The chain of custody is the process of tracking and documenting how digital evidence is handled from collection to presentation in court. Remember, we said whatever evidence you're collecting, it has to be admissible in court. Now, if it's admissible in court, the chain of custody helps us to ensure that we prove that this evidence is clean, this evidence is untampered with, and no one outside who's supposed to be with it was with it. Okay. And it also shows if we did this, and also, when we did this, say we we were able to create a copy of it. Yeah, then this copy was put this on this drive again. Now this drive was clean and it's not corrupted. Okay, you document everything. Also, you mention who did what, how it was stored, how it was transferred, and how it was analyzed. Okay, so that we ensure that um, in the court it's believable, like your evidence is admissible in a court of law, and then it also makes sense that no one access it. And even if there's accountability, even if someone accessed it, they access it because they needed to perform their job function, and also whatever they did is also clear. Now, once that is done, you want to analyze the evidence. This is where now the forensics, the tools, you're going to be using the different tools. So performing step one, two, and three, as we've said, is essentially just laying the ground for this step, which is analyzing the evidence. Now, this is where the actual forensics comes in here. So in this case, you're going to use different tools. So for this one, because we are looking at the network, we're going to use Wireshark to analyze for network traffic. We're also going to examine and correlate evidence from other sources. So for example, server logs, we're going to check, okay, so this is the time they access the server. Are there some firewall logs? Are there any intrusion detection systems in place that we collected? Remember when we were strategizing? Okay, now we are reconstructing now the timeline, how they were able to, if it was it truly Alex, and if we know it was not really Alex, then we know that his account was compromised. And if his account was compromised, where did this start from? Okay, now the next thing, after we've done an analysis, after we've now created a narrative of the incident, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to report all of these things. Remember, any investigation is a story. You have to tell your story nicely. And how you tell your story is on the report. There's the actual doing it, where you'll be conducting all of the steps that we've talked about from step one to step four. Now, now where you're telling the story is now the reporting part. How are you going to how are you going to tell me if I hired you, if I contracted you to do this investigation, if this was my company? How are you going to explain it to me? Okay, so once all the information is done, you put all the information, all the important information together, all the findings, you put it in a report, and then you present it to your client. So now it's also important to make it comprehensive. Make this report as comprehensive as possible. Again, I want you to understand that not everyone is very technical. You might be technical as a forensics analyst, but the people, your client, the person who's hired you, is not technical. In fact, that's why they hired you to do this job for them. Okay, so now that means you will need to put it in a language they understand. You can have now a technical report and another high level report. This high level report is, like now you present it to the CEOs, put it in a language that they understand, put it in simple terms, explain to them that this tool was used to do this, and this is how I used it, and this is what I was able to get. Okay, don't talk to them about server logs, firewalls, firewall rules, accept, whitelist, blacklist. No, 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 no. Put it, even when you mention that, say, okay, so the work of a firewall is to do the firewall, sorry, the work of a firewall is to do this. And firewall logs, the logs they show us what happened. Yeah. What was blocked at this time, who tried to do what. Okay. Then once that happens, you explain to them, and yeah, that will be pretty much the end of a forensics investigation. Now, the other thing about investigation is they always repeat. This circle keeps on and on. So when you report and you're not able to get, maybe this did not satisfy you did not meet the expectations, or maybe they did not get what they exactly, sometimes people might talk, but the more from a story, they can now, from a report, they can now identify the gaps. Okay, They can say, okay, so this is missing here, this is missing. Now, when there's a gap, you go back. You always go back to you always go back to now the first step, depending on the directive that your client gives. Thank you so much. That is the end of forensics, digital introduction to digital forensics. I will I will attach links to videos where you can learn most of these tools. And if you have any questions, please always feel free to reach out. Thank you.